feet on the water.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Welcome to the show, y'all. Look here, we're going to fast forward, right? It's been a couple of years now. Chris is 16 now. His girlfriend, Pam, I'm going to give you the name. Her name is Pam. And they've fallen in love. I mean, head over heels in love. You know what I'm saying? And they're spending a lot of time together. Chris has not been back to the north side in a couple of years now for the summer. His mother feels like that she can trust him at the house and all of the different types of things. You know, for a teenager, they love in that house being empty, especially when they got a girlfriend. You know what I'm talking about now. You know what's been going on these couple of years every summer when his mom goes off to school and she comes home, but she's out of the house for a long time. She got 2 jobs still, and she's going to school at night. So, hey, Bertha butt boogie. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, but anyway, Chris, you remember what I told you in the last episode where Chris is going to have to make a decision. He's going to have to make a decision. He's fallen so far in love with Pam that he wants to be totally honest with her about who he is. She's lighting up on him. She hadn't been pushing the issue, but she knows there's some part of him that he's not sharing with her. And he still makes these phone calls. And every now and then he slipped up and said Sean's name to her as his friend that he knows back on the north side. But he never told her anything about Sean, but he's talked about Sean to her. He didn't mean to, but it just came out because she would ask him, who are you calling every night? And he would tell her that he's calling Sean. And Sean is the guy that he met on the north side. And he wouldn't give her much information about him, but he wanted to tell her the truth. But he knew in his heart, based off of what Sean had told him, that it would be dangerous and detrimental to him if he told her the truth or anybody the truth. If it were ever found out, he could get killed. Now again, he's 16 now. He's still a child. And he's a gangster. Now he has a girlfriend that he's head over heels in love with, but he's not being honest with her. And he wants to be honest with her. He wants to be honest with her. So sometime during that week, he sits down with his mom and he wants to talk to his mom about it. And he tells his mom, he says, if there's something that you've been holding back from telling somebody, but by telling them you can put yourself in danger, do you tell them? Do you tell them what's going on? And she asks him, says, well, it depends on what you're talking about. Can it cause you physical harm? Would it cause somebody to do something to you? And he said, possibly. And she just asked him because as a parent, she's nervous now. She said, are you talking about yourself? And he looked at his mom and his eyes welled with tears. I'm going to keep it real. His eyes welled up with tears and he said, yes. She said, what have you done? And he said, I just don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say it. And she should just say it. She said, because I'm your mom. And there's absolutely nothing that you can't tell me that's going to make me not love you. Nothing. She said, there's nothing that you can do because this love that I have for you is irrevocable. It was given to you before you were even walking on this earth. When you were being formed in my stomach. This is what she's telling him. I loved you then and I love you now. So whatever it is that you have to say it. And we're going to get through it together. And he looked at her and he said, how did this get to be about you? He said, I was asking you this question because it's something that I want to tell Pam. I don't want to hold anything back from her. And she's like, well, why are you so insistent on telling her and not me? I'm your mama. That's what she's telling him. And he's like, well, you know why I love her. She said, you don't love me? He said, yes, I love you, but it's different. She said, I know, Chris. But whatever you want to tell her, if it can cause you harm or anybody around you harm, you tell me first. And then we'll figure out if you need to be telling her. Period. So he looked at her and he says, do you remember a couple of summers ago when I went to the north side to spend some time while you went to school during the summer? And she was like, yes, I remember that. He says, when I was down there that first summer, he looks at his mom and he pauses for a second and he takes a deep breath and he says, Sean convinced me to become a vice lord. And she looked at him, chills ran all over her body because she understood what that meant. She said, so are you a gangster or a vice lord? And he looked at her and he said, I'm both. And she put her head down in her hands and she started to cry. She said, why did you do that? She said, I would have rather you not done anything, but why did you do that? So he starts to explain to her this whole plot that Sean had laid out to him about infiltrating and getting the information for the vice lords and all of this type of things so that the organization would know what they were doing so they could stay a step ahead of them, right? He lays the whole scheme out to her. And as she's processing this, she stands up and she starts to pace back and forth. She's trying to figure out what in the world has he gotten himself into. Because she's never dealt with anything like that. Yes, she grew up in the neighborhood. Yes, she knew about all the gang activity in the neighborhood, but she had never done anything like that or been with anybody that was like that. His father was not even a gang member. So now she's looking at the prospect of not only is her son a gangster, he's a vice lord, and he's spying on the gangsters for the vice lords. She's heard the stories in the streets. You can't play with either one of these gangs. You will get killed. Now, when he's running this story down to his mom, he doesn't have any idea that the higher-ups in vice lord don't know. He doesn't have any idea. So he can't relay that to her because he don't know. So he's telling her he believes that they do know because Sean is putting it off like this is official, like a referee with a whistle. But at the end of the day, it's not. Sean is manipulating him. So now she says, have you told anybody else any parts of it? And he says, no, I haven't told anybody. I want to tell Pam because I've been dishonest with her. I want her to know what it is that I've done. She said, you cannot tell her. She said, you cannot tell her. And he looks at her and he said, why not, Mama? And he said, do you know who her brother is? Do you know who her big brother is? And he was like, yeah, I met him. I said, so she said, but do you know who he is? She was like, he's just a dude. She was like, no, he's not just a dude. He's not just a dude. He's the one that the gangsters call when it comes time to go put in work. That's why you don't see him hanging out with the rest of y'all. He that dude. He that Grim Reaper. He's the one to put that blackout team together when they roll and come get you. So yeah, he's a gangster, but he lives a totally separate life. He don't want to be cool with nobody that he might have to take out. So he got his own hit squad. They tight. And they all killers. So now Chris is looking at her like, what? And she was like, you should know these things. You should know these things if you choose to be in this life. So now he's afraid. He's terrified. Because now he knows that he can never tell her. Never. And he's conflicted because he loves her and he wants to be honest with her. But he don't know what to do now. He don't know what to do now. So his mom, Lisa, she's sitting there, she's angry, she's getting upset. She said that she was going to call Miss Kathy and tell her what her son has done to you, to Chris. But Chris tells her not to do it. He begs her not to do it because he don't want Sean to know that he's told anybody the business. So she says, I got to do something. I got to do something to protect you. How am I going to protect you if I can't say anything to anybody? But he said, if you say something and it comes out, I'm dead over here or I'm dead over there. She said, so we just keep this to ourselves. He said, until I can figure out what to do, I don't know what to do. She said, how are you going to figure out what to do? How are you going to figure out what to do? You don't know anything about these people. You don't know anything about them. You didn't even know your girlfriend's brother was the hitman. So what are you going to do? He said, I don't know, but I don't need you telling nobody about this right now. Nobody. Please, just don't say anything to anybody about this. So his mother, she reaches out and she grabs him and she hugs him and she just cries and cries and cries like, what have you done? Why did you do this? She's asking all of these questions and he's not answering any of them. He's just holding her. He's holding her, and he's never seen his mother cry so hard and be so afraid. And in that moment, he realized what he had done. He realized that this was a mistake, and I got to do something. But he didn't know what to do, and he didn't know who to trust. So time went on, and he's kicking it with Pam, and his demeanor, his moods, and everything is changing now. And she starts to notice that. She knows her man. And when they're at the house at night together alone, when his mom is gone to school, she asked him, she said, is there something wrong? He's like, no. Do you not want to be with me anymore? He's like, yes, I want to be with you. I love you. She said, but something has changed. Something is going on. And he said, I got a lot going on. I got a lot of things going on in my head that I got to sort out. And she said, how can I help you? Let me help you. I can help you. He said, you can't help me. You can't help me. And she said, well, who does it involve? Is it another woman? And he's like, no, it's nothing like that. It's not about another woman. This is about me and some things that I need to get straight with me. So she backs up and stops pushing him. She don't want to put too much pressure on him because she loves him. But she tells him, just chill. We don't have that much time before your mom gets home, and I gotta go. So let's just spend this time together and not worry about what you got going on. So they just spent that time together, talking, kissing, touching, watching TV, and all of those types of things till his mom got home, and then she had to go home. She had her own little car, you know what I'm saying, first little car. So she drove home. Everything was straight. Nobody was going to mess with her in the neighborhood, and now Chris knew why. You know what I'm saying? He understood now. She was persona non grata. Persona non grata. And he thought about it. He wishes if he would have known, he would have never talked to her. Never. But it is what it is now. He loved her, and he was going to be with her. Even if he had to continue to lie to her. But he had to find a way out of this mess. He had to find a way out of this mess. So a few weeks go by and the BM drops back in to talk to him, and he's feeling crazy now because if anybody finds out, you know what I'm saying, he feels some kind of relief because he told his mom, but it also put another layer of stress on him because he's got to be extra cautious now because he don't want anybody else to know. But he asked the BM, he said, man, have you had any luck locating my pops? And he said, I think I have, man. I think I have. He said, but give me a few more weeks. We're going to make sure our sales. And then, if it's real, he said, me and you will go together. Nobody else. Not even your mom's. So Chris got all excited. He's like, yeah, that's what's up. Nobody else will know. He said, how far away is it? He said, don't worry about that. He said, we're not even sure if it's him. And he said, we don't want to spook him because all is forgiven, but he don't know that. He don't know that. Because normally, gangsters don't forgive no debts. You pay with your blood. And just because you run, that don't mean you get away. But like I say, shortly after he ran, they found out the truth. And they all knew him. They would have worked with him. Yeah, they might have roughed him up a little bit, but they wasn't going to kill him. But he don't know that. He knows that gangsters don't forgive debts either. So he got on down. He thought that would be best to make sure that nothing happened to Lisa or Chris. He thought that would be best. And a lot of us make those mistakes. We think that by doing something that could cause us to be taken away from the people that we love the most, it's going to be the best thing for them. And that's not true. Like when we're in the streets doing what we do, we think that we get out here, we hustle, we get this money to pay these bills, sell this dope, or rob somebody and do all these other crazy things, that we're going to make the situation for the ones that we love better. No. It's not going to make it better, because when you get caught, you notice I didn't say if you get caught. I said when you get caught, you're going to be taken away from them, and God knows for how long, and that's going to make it worse on them. Because when you leave, those bills still stay. You understand? Now they have to find a way to deal with it. Luckily, you know what I'm saying, we got a lot of strong people out there, women and men, that get left behind by the person in their life that goes out and does something silly, and they figure out and they find a way. We just don't want to give them enough props to know that if we're honest with them and say we need a little help on doing this and doing that, that two heads are better than one, and you can come up with something that won't cause you to have to go to jail to be able to pay the bills. You understand? We got to learn to trust the person that we're with. So Chris is all excited because he thinks he's about to find his father. He don't even tell his mama. He don't even tell her because he don't want to get her hopes up, and he don't really know how she still feels about him. He don't know. So he don't want to say anything to upset her. But his mother has become super duper protective of him now. I'm talking about she's so protective of him. She wants to know everything, where he's going, what time he's going to be home. And when she's not there, she tells him, make sure the door stays locked. And by all means, don't you run your mouth to that girl. She keeps telling him that because she knows how young teenagers are. They get a little smell of that cootie cat, and next thing you know, they can't keep their mouth shut. And she's telling them to keep your mouth shut because she's terrified of what could happen to him if he opens his mouth, thinking that she might be able to help him. Now, keep in mind, she loves him, but there's no guarantee that the gangsters would accept this mistake when he went into it and became a gangster just to deceive them. Send chills up my spine to think about, you know what I'm saying, that. Because when you play games like that, them big boy games like that, y'all, I'm telling you, you play them big boy games like that, and it's going to come down on you like a ton of bricks, and ain't nobody playing, and ain't no sympathy in Gangster City. I'm telling you that. Ain't no sympathy. As they say, ain't no pity in Gangster City. Because when they come and put hands on you, especially when you're in a situation like Chris in, it ain't just hands, it's feet, baseball bats, chains, whatever they got, pistols, in it and everything is coming to the table. And you gonna get it. And ain't nobody gonna care nothing about you hollering and crying and saying you sorry and you ain't gonna do it no more and please don't kill me and all this and that. Ain't nobody hearing that. They're trying to be the one to give you that fatal blow so they can take the props and get the credit for the one that's taking you out. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But the time is moving on. The time is moving on, and it's getting closer and closer to the time that the BM is going to bust back down on the scene and tell Chris whether they got some good news for him or not. It's getting closer and closer. And that day finally comes. It finally comes to where Chris is going to be told what it is. Have they found his father? So when the BM bumped down on him, he comes up on the block and he tells me, he said, Chris, I got some good news for you. He was like, yeah. He said, one of the brothers found your pops. He's up north. He's like, yeah, like where at? And he told him, he says, he's in Detroit. In Detroit. Now, Chris had never been to Detroit, Michigan, y'all. Never been there. And for him to go, he's going to have to get permission from his mom to travel with the BM. He just can't up and leave and be gone like that. He can't go down there and be back in one day. He didn't want to do that anyway, even if he could. So the BM tells me, he said, are you going to be able to go? Do I need to go talk to your mom? You know, don't get it twisted. The BM knows Lisa too. And he said, no, let me talk to her. And he tells him, he said, look, you can tell her that we're going up there to see your pops and that I found him. Or you could not tell her. He said, but keep in mind, if you tell her, you might upset her. But if you don't tell her why we're going to Detroit, you know what I'm saying? You got to give her a good story. So Chris said, he said, man, I'm through lying to my moms, man. Through lying to my moms. And the BM didn't understand that. He said, what do you mean by that? He said, oh, nothing. He said, I just went through a period in my life where I wasn't honest with her. And I know now I can trust my mom with anything. She's a strong woman. And the BM backed up. It threw him off for a second. You know what I mean? And Chris caught that, so he had to clean it up real fast. He's quick on his feet now, y'all. So he tells me, he said, man, let me go to the house, man. He said, when you want to leave? He said, we'll leave tomorrow if she said you can leave. So that night, Chris goes to the house and he tells his mom before she gets ready to go off to school, he said, look, this is what I want to do. I want to go up to Detroit because I've been kicking it with the BM. And he said that they found my pops up there. So she looks at him and she said, they found who? He said, my pops. He's in Detroit, she says. He was like, yeah. And why do you want to go up there? He said, I want to see him. I want to talk to him. And she said, I don't recommend you do that. She said, how do you know they're not going to do something to him? And he told her, he said, they're not. I was forgiven on that. And she said, gangsters don't do that. She said, you better be sure. So Chris thought about it and he said, I got to do something to belay my mom's concerns. So he calls the BM and tells him to come by the house. And the BM asked me, he said, why? Why do I need to come by the house to talk to Lisa? He said, I want you to explain to my mom that everything is going to be straight, that y'all are not going to do nothing to my pops, right? So he said, I'm on my way. And he said, after that, we can roll, man. He said, cool, just have your overnight bag, man. We're going to stay a couple of days and get on back. So he drops by and he explains to Lisa the circumstances and how they found out everything that was going on with him, right? And how they didn't think that they needed to do anything to him. He said, yeah, they were going to rough him up, but they weren't going to kill him. And they weren't going to do nothing to him today. And he said, the only reason I'm even doing this now is because I want Chris to meet his dad. And she looked at him, she said, don't play with my son. And the BM looked at her, he admired her spunk, you know what I'm saying? That she even had the nerve to even say that to him, right? Knowing who he was. But he was also a friend of hers and Chris's pops. And he said, I wouldn't dare do that. I wouldn't dare do that. So she gave her blessings and Chris and the BM, they headed out. They on their way. They on their way up north to pick up or to see his pops. And Chris can't wait. He can't wait. He can't wait. He's on his way to finally see his pops, to get some closure, to get some kind of understanding from the man's mouth himself. And he hopes that everything turns out okay. But if not, he was going to take it in stride. And that's what you're going to have to do. If you want to hear what happens when Chris meets his pops, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode, right? And I know you will. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.